Hey everyone, it's Mike Andes, landscapebusinesscourse.com, and today we have a very special episode again here of Roundup. A couple of you have been asking if you could hear from other participants and people that work with me directly from Augusta Lawn Care. So today I'm really happy we're going to have our first general manager on the show, and then next week I'll probably have Lee from the local shop, who's kind of worked from the field to an estimator to an office person, and really going to be like kind of give you some good perspective, I think. So really fortunate and happy to get that started. Let's address the first that I am not in the studio. This is a green screen. This is not anything you've ever seen before. It's not a new office or anything like that. But let's go ahead and get started. Without any further delay, let's go ahead and bring in Chuck from our Mooresville, North Carolina location. Chuck, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, Mike. I appreciate it.
Cool. So first of all, I wanted to kind of just, I know most people obviously don't know who you are on the channel, but I wanted to kind of introduce you and what you were doing before you even started doing Augusta, lawn care in general. What were you doing, and a little bit just kind of how you got into things.
All right. Yeah. So I'm Chuck, obviously the general manager here in Mooresville. So I'm originally from Ohio. I've never lived in Mooresville up until when I took this job with Mike in January.
Which at first was a handicap. Remember that when you
it
moved
was.
over.
It was. It definitely was. So before I took this position, I originally, starting at 20 years old, right before I turned 21, I started with the State of Ohio Department of Corrections. So pretty much everything I've known in my adult life was centered around law enforcement, corrections, things like that. So I was an officer for a long time. I worked in the offices. My last position was I was a financial supervisor in the business side of it, trying to get away from just the crazy schedule, the nights, the weekends, the 24 hours of overtime a week that they would mandate us to. Third shift. I have a young family. I am married with my wife Brooke, and then I have two young boys that are 7 and 9, and I missed a lot of their stuff early. So on the side, I had started landscaping. In 2010, I started Chuck's Yard Care. Very simple. Not a whole lot. Did it for a season, maybe two. Wasn't, profitable all over Columbus, which is a major market, huge area, but I didn't have a zone. I didn't really know much. At that time, I'm, 24, 25 years old, just mowing grass. So I did that. And then in 2018, I stepped away from the state of Ohio, gave all of that up. Me and my wife sold our house, traveled for a year, and bought a camper, sold every other possession other than what we could fit in a couple totes in our grandma's basement, traveled along. And then in May of 2019, we stopped in Charleston, South Carolina. And then I started Fought for Lawns, which is another landscape company in Charleston, South Carolina. Loved it. Told Brooke, this is what I will do long term, but we didn't know how that would play out. We got it up to, my last month was August of 2019. Got it up to either $8,500 or $8,900 for the month in revenue by myself. I had pretty much did all the mowing myself 4 days a week, tried to do some projects, things like that, while also staying in a campground because we were, obviously in an RV until we could decide, are we staying, are we going, all of that stuff. So did all that and then decided some things happened personally with our family. My father was diagnosed with heart failure, and then her grandfather has dementia. So we decided, let's go home for a little while. So we did that. And of course, what do I know with an easy job, easy money? I go back to security, that kind of stuff. So I became a regional manager for a private security company. And then saw your YouTube ad for looking for general managers, not knowing where they were. So I told my wife, I said, hey, don't think I'm crazy, but watch this video because I like doing different things. So it's another one of my ideas. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. I'm always trying to find something to do on my own, be a business owner, that kind of thing, which this kind of wasn't that, but it's turning into be that because of the 3F program. So did that. So she watched it and was like, okay, you're going to get a salary. We're going to relocate south back to the Carolinas where we loved it. So that's kind of where we ended up. And now we worked through it. It was, had two locations that weren't Charlotte, in the Charlotte area. And then it ended up working out, mysteriously through God's ways that we have now this location here. And now we're in Mooresville, North Carolina.
That's awesome. I wanted to kind of speak to someone maybe who's listening that isn't necessarily going to go own their own business, and they perhaps
Mhm.
have a family, they need a little more stability. Um, just kind of speak to the fact like you kind of did it one way, which is doing it on the side, kind of doing it by yourself, that sort of thing. And then you've also done it more of a general manager, kind of using the structure of another company to kind of grow into
Mhm.
you owning your own business. Can you kind of speak to those? And what would you say to someone that's kind of thinking about, but they do need that solid paycheck, and they necessarily can't take a massive, $100,000 risk on trying to scale something and not making profit right away?
Yeah. So honestly, that's the only reason we took this job. Ultimately, was we had a steady paycheck. There was a steady income. I am a salaried employee, so in the spring rush when we're working till dark, it is what it is. And in the winter time, when we are in that transitional zone, so we do have winter work. It didn't snow at all January, February, March here. There was no snow, so we will have work here in the winter. And if there's not a ton of work, I still get paid the same. So it's very nice to have that with a family, to be able to then say, hey, hon, I want to do landscaping, but what's the way to do it? Here, this was a perfect example for us to do it. And I think if you get with the right company, and personally with me, I've loved every minute of Augusta. There's ways to promote, and that I think that's what kind of highlights Augusta from other companies, especially talking to my guys and different things. And my brother worked for a major Brightview. So he worked back in the day. He became an arborist, quit because they worked him to death and everything. And there really wasn't the promotion. There was just kind of do what you can, come in, work. Here's your paycheck, and we'll see you later. So the culture at Augusta is great for an employee. So we do have the 2-year program. You work for Augusta for 2 years, and you can move up and promote to an estimator, to a general manager, or if you want to go, start and run your own, you can, and not have the franchise fee. So I think that, Augusta builds that whichever direction you want to go, you can ultimately do that. And I think that that's a fantastic thing and a great thing. And it was amazing for me because it gave I'm a little more of a risk taker. That's just what it is. My wife is not. So it's got to be, she's a planner. I could tell you everything we're going to do this weekend, next weekend. Like, she likes to have things planned, but I've come to love that, and I like that. So it's nice to know, okay, I have a paycheck, but we're taking a big risk to go do this new job, this new career in a new state, a new city. I have no idea these people down here are completely different. Are they going to be the same, or or is it going to be the same climate? So there was some research that went into it, but with us, the safety net of I have a paycheck was great. Now let's go and actually focus on the business, growing it, whether it's buying this, which is the goal, or starting my own in another location. If that changes down the road, I could do that factor, or just stay a general manager. Those avenues are there. And I think for somebody as an employee, that's what is great about this company is the paths are clear. It's just, what do you want to do? Do you want to go into entrepreneurship? I have a guy now that I think eventually, he's talked about owning, but he also has talked about being a general manager, because of the security that goes along with it. And he likes that. So there are just so many different avenues that you can go, like I said, to promote to an estimator, to go to an office manager or general manager, or be an owner, and not have that heavy burden of, well, I got other franchise fees to get that. And you don't have those. You still have your initial startup through equipment, things like that, but you don't have to worry about the big upfront fee, and the different things that Augusta provides for you, I think outweighs any other company.
So when it comes to, what you've done even the past, I guess, February, so we're looking at 6 months now.
Mhm.
And, I think a lot of the success you've had is attributed to the fact that you had experience coming into Augusta when it came to hiring and managing people. And like
Mhm.
I've always said, getting to 500,000 in annual revenue is going to be around if you can sell. And then getting beyond that's going to be, can you manage people? And I feel like that's probably your strong suit in terms of managing people, hiring, really just looking at someone saying like, are they going to be a good person to work with, all the rest of it. Can you speak to that in terms of drawing on that experience that you've had in the past as a manager for someone that's potentially wanting to get into business for themselves, but they're kind of questioning whether or not they really do have those skills required to hire, manage money, all the rest of it. Maybe they do have some of the flaws on the sales side, but they do have skills. And I feel like, looking at your track record over the past 6 months, taking, now to over 50,000 a month in revenue so quickly, becoming profitable within 4 or 5 months, which our goal is 6, and you did it in 4 or 5. Can you speak to that experience that you've had in the past and how that helped you, whether it be as a general manager or as an owner down the road, for someone that potentially might have some corporate experience and background?
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said previously, I had been a supervisor, so I managed a small office of 4 people with the state of Ohio. But then when I went into the private security for them, it was another franchise, national company, similar to Augusta, like I said, franchises. I had 2 markets, one that had about 20, 25 employees, and then the other market in Cincinnati, because I was from Columbus, the market in Cincinnati was 30 to 40, depending upon the season. So I could be anywhere from 45 to 65 employees at any given time. Hiring, firing. Didn't really do so much of the financials, but I had that before because we had an office lady and they kind of handled their own money. But I did that with the state of Ohio. So there's a lot that kind of goes into it, but I think there's enough support from Augusta or anything. You can learn how to mow grass like that. You can YouTube how to lay stripes. And, most of the time your customers, they honestly don't care about your stripes. They just want their grass mowed. Show up, mow the grass, do your job. As far as hiring and things like that, that stuff you can learn as you go, but a lot of it can just be common sense. So if you come in and you treat people right and you explain to them and you kind of, we had a couple of complaints. We didn't have any like all month of June. We had probably 2, maybe 3 the whole month. We've had 3 or 4 this week alone, and yellow slips, as you call them, and damage cases or whatever it is. And, it's just telling them how to fix it, but then also then remind them of the good stuff. So, hey, look, we've been crushing it. Don't let this one thing kill you, but we got to improve our edging or our weed eating or what. Be careful of, watch for sprinkler heads, whatever it is. So it's a little bit of that, but I mean, it's really just a lot of common sense of teaching people, how to kind of just take ownership of all of their things. And it makes my job as a general manager, that much easier, and pay for performance it has its downsides because guys rush, but then it also has the upside of they slow down because I got one guy, he hates going back to product. He hates damage claims because he's money hungry. But you tell him, and now he's slowed it down, and he hasn't got a complaint for probably the whole month. And he wasn't one of the ones that got the complaint. So, like, he realized, hey, I can run through it. I'm still going to make great money, but I need to slow down a little bit so that I don't miss things and I don't rush things. So there is some managing people, and that's where we're starting now. The guys have been with a little bit longer. I've weeded through some employees. I've fired 2 people this season already. But it's honestly not a hard thing if you use common sense and just kind of talk to people in a respectful way. And just, like for this, because I just treat it as my own. If you take ownership as a manager and say, you know what, I'm going to treat this, if it's my money, if it's my equipment, if it's my business, and then you treat your employees the kind of the same way. Like if I was this guy mowing grass, because I get out and get dirty with them, I mow grass with them and do treatments with them, lay mulch and all that stuff. How would I want to be viewed? How would I want to, to take care of equipment? You got to show them kind of the same thing. So kind of show them by doing is really how I feel you should do it.
And in your market, like you really scale it relatively quickly in terms of size and just revenues and getting it to profitability so quickly. And we spent probably about $5,000 to $6,000 less than we usually would on a corporate location to get it to that point. Talk to me kind of though about some of the hurdles in doing that. We scaled relatively quickly. There was a lot going on. You just had to juggle, whether it be hiring, finding the work for those people. What were some of the obstacles or things you had to learn in the past 6 months?
Yeah. So first, the work was easy to find. Like the work is here. Now it's slowed down this month, but a lot of that's, people are on vacations. spending tons of money to go out of town. You know, you see all the reports of people spending tons of money on travel now and hotels and things like that. So it slowed down, and I'm not so worried about that. But the work was easy. The work was here. You just had to show up and do it. Now, finding the people in the beginning, I found everybody I needed. We were good. I lost a guy, then I had to find the right guy. So weeded through them. But like as you said, like we started in February. I went to training the first week of February, came back. It was me and one truck. That was it. And we bought another truck to have a mowing setup. So then we had mow setup with trailerless. And then, you know, if everybody wants to know, Mike does run mowerless setups, even in his corporate stores with 0 turns.
Trailerless.
That's what I meant.
You said mowerless.
Yeah, not mowerless.
Weed whackers.
Yeah, no. Trailerless setup. So we run a 48-inch standard beat in the back of a 1500 pickup. We now have 2 of those setups, plus we always call the guys call it the landscape truck because it's the one that we hook up to the dump trailer, and then we have an estimate car now. And we started nothing to where then, you know, basic no revenue, to where we started with some, I think $11,000 to end February, 15,000, something like that. I have to go back and look, to where now we 54,000 last month, and we keep gaining mowing customers. So it is kind of growing and progressing. Honestly, the biggest hurdle was getting our equipment. I ordered an edger attachment for the steel combi system on the 111 combi, and I think the end of March, and I just got it at the beginning of June for a straight shaft edger. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
So, but that's just kind of how everything goes. So getting the equipment has been a problem. Getting some supplies like mulch. One of our suppliers that we consistently use that has the best price, they ran out of brown mulch. Well, we use a ton of mulch here and pine needles. Then the pine needle guy fell out. He ran out. So then I was having to call down into Charlotte, and a lot of guys didn't want to come up to Charlotte because we're about 20, 25 minutes outside of Charlotte. And they just didn't want to bring the supplies up here. The orders were too small or whatever it was. So that became a problem. It really was just a big supply issue. And then honestly, not knowing the market. Not knowing the market was probably the biggest hurdle that I came across from start to finish. I didn't know pricing. I had no idea, you know, what they were going to pick as acceptable. And that was really kind of, the people here are you're either, because it's a smaller town, it's like 40,000 people, but, and I want to say smaller town, but to me, that's a little bit of a smaller town. But it still has the older Mooresville people and the newer Mooresville people. So learning the pricing and the customer, just this market was really my biggest struggle. My wife will tell you, I complain like, hey, these people do this, but these people do this, and they don't like me because one guy called me a Yankee because I'm from the north. Like, it was just a different market. But I feel like I've kind of gotten the pricing dialed in, what's acceptable for certain areas of town, I guess you would say, because Mooresville really is divided up in 2 separate markets. How I kind of treat it, there's the more affluent side that's closer to the lake and, you know, multi-million-dollar homes that we're mowing. You know, today we mowed a new client. It's a $3 million house, and then you go to the other side and it's 5 acres and $100,000 house. So they want different things. You know, the farm people just mow, go, and get out of here and leave me alone kind of thing. They're not real picky. The other side is every blade of grass has to be perfect, edges crisp, you know, that kind of thing. So it's just learning the wants and the needs of the market. That's really been the biggest struggle here in Mooresville. Now we honestly could use more work.
For someone that might be watching that is a manager or is a number 2 or trying to support their owner, or maybe one day wants to own their business but currently is an employee, what would you say to them has been some of the things that you've had to adapt to or have been challenging, that the fact that you aren't the owner, whether it be dealing with employees or customers or even just the expectations of somebody else? How has there been areas where that's been difficult at certain times, or areas that you could kind of point someone in the right direction if they're wanting to eventually own, but right now they're currently as an employee?
Yeah, so that's a hard one, because you give me a lot of freedoms to do as I feel I should, because I do treat it as my business. I do everything that I would, if I would, I'm not going to go buy something that I wouldn't buy on my own, if it wasn't my money. So that one kind of tricky. Sometimes the hardest thing is because I'm not the owner, I can't make, I don't want to say legal decisions, but insurance. We have insurance issues or banking issues, or like yes, I have access to everything. Like I can do all the stuff, but then there's times where they said, well, you need to be this, or we need to speak to Mike, or and I can't do those things. And it does slow me down where I'm like, hey, let's get it. Let's do it. Let's finish it. I don't have time to deal with this. Let's just move. I can't. And it's not that it takes you long, but it's still not something that I'm thinking about. Let's do it and move on. That's probably that biggest challenge there, is just trying to stay on task when there are some things I have to wait for. But you give me pretty good freedom to do what I need to do.
You there, Chuck?
Yeah, I'm here.
Sorry, that was on my end. I don't know what happened.
Oh man.
So, but you were saying kind of about the legal side, that was kind of the biggest challenge.
Yeah, that's the challenge, because like I said, the insurance is the banking information. That's the stuff that that is hard. Getting the vehicles registered. Like I don't know how to register a car here, but once we figured it out, some of it I still needed you to help me with that aspect of it. So that's kind of that issue. Mike, you there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know what's up. It just keeps blanking out, but I can hear you.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. So it's just one of those things.
Maybe kind of pivoting my question a bit then towards someone like sorry, now we're all delayed. Fun stuff. But anyways, kind of pivoting my question a little bit towards an owner that is thinking about having a general manager or number two or someone to run their location. What would you say to them in terms of empowering? Because it's a big part of what I do, and that is like find someone good and then just trust them 100%. And if they mess up, like, hey, you gave them all the tools and resources and let them kind of die on their own sword and not micromanage. What would you say to that to someone who's potentially someone in my shoes looking for someone like yourself? Because in my opinion, attracting great people, part of that is like, let them go do their thing. Like, don't get in their way. And maybe talk a little bit to that in terms of giving someone some suggestions if they were looking for a general manager.
Yeah. So you've got to have that trust. And, my previous position as the regional manager, I had, we did $900,000 in revenue, 2 offices, all of these different things, but yet I didn't have a simple company credit card to buy things. I like to buy office supplies. I had to call them; they would Amazon it to me. But then every other decision within, like, that was literally the only thing I didn't do. I had to call the insurance guy to add them. I had to like all these different things, but yet I couldn't buy paper. So like it was a little bit frustrating. So with now, like you have, to me personally, that kind of is, I don't want to say a deal breaker, but if you want, like you said, good people to treat things like it is theirs, then you have to give them that kind of power and that freedom. So if you want to hold things back, well, I'm not giving you my all if I don't have your all. So to me, that you have to be able to trust the people to do those things. And I would think you would know pretty quickly from conversations and how the business is kind of going, if things are doing right, looking at bank accounts or just growth or however you would gauge it on, as the owner. But if you don't give people that freedom, like you said, to kind of hang themselves, because you're going to know but to me, you got to trust them to do that job. And if they're right for the position, you'll know pretty quickly, I think. But if you don't, then they're going to think you don't trust them, which then is just a domino effect down the line of issues.
In terms of hiring, how have things been there? I know we kind of were having struggles, and then we had the whole labor shortage, and then we were considering raising base pay. Like, talk me through that. I know at one time we were like, we were very concerned about how much we were spending and just trying to find good people. How has that evolved over the past few months?
So like I hired my first employee, which I had high hopes for, but then I'm a big attitude person. Like I explained earlier in the thing, I can teach anybody to mow grass and weed eat and do all of that mess. But if you have a terrible attitude, I got nothing for you. We are a team, and that's just how things are going to be. So I had to get rid of him probably within the first month and a half. But dude could mow some stripes. He was great. real good technicality wise, on the equipment, but just was not a good fit for the culture that we're trying to build here. But then got a new guy in, hired him on a part-time basis. So I've been able to find some people. And I say part-time, but the guy works at 10, comes in at 10 and works till 7 or till 5. So he's still putting in 7 hours. He's just not coming in at 7:30 when we do. And then we just hired another guy because I had to fire a guy because, again, his attitude, his call offs, things like that. I'll fire you in a heartbeat for that. I don't have a problem at all getting rid of you if you're just not going to fit with all of the guys. I don't bid a job that I wouldn't do, so don't complain about it. I mean, we all gripe a little bit, like, man, this job's hot, it sucks, whatever. But I'm not going to bid it if I wouldn't be out there with you guys doing it. So, and I tell them all this when we interview. So we've gotten rid of the 2 people because of that kind of stuff. Just mow the grass and do what we're supposed to. I'll be right there with you and let's have a good time and do what we need to do to work so we can all go home, not just go home when you want to go home. So, that it was a struggle to find that when we were at that point to find the part-time guy. And I went into the field a little bit more. I kind of pulled out of the field a little bit more and then kind of went back into it. And then trying to stabilize that a little bit where it was a transition between the spring rush and the summer where do we get another person? Do I go into the field a little bit more? So I would mow 2 or 3 hours a day with the guys. So we did that, and I did that for a little bit. And the guy, because he was kind of slacking a little bit, not really pulling his weight with the rest of the crew, we need to get rid of him and hire somebody else in here. But now I think we've got a decent setup with the crew we have. It's just kind of making it work schedule-wise with the part-time guy because his schedule he goes to school. He just got out of the Army. So we may look for another person, but I was a little stressed about the amount of money we were spending on hiring, paying $21 for an applicant for Indeed, or whatever. I think it might have got up to $23 per applicant from Indeed, that says they had a year of experience mowing grass and it was helping their grandfather mow his house. So then you interview them and that really honestly becomes a waste of time because as you guys know, we don't have a shop. Like we don't have an office where people can come in. So it was come meet us at our lot and we'll talk about it, but we're outside. And in the spring it rains a ton and like torrential rain, it's not like the Seattle kind of drizzle all the time. It's just, it pours. So, we found a Starbucks or a little coffee shop and we'd meet and kind of talk or whatever. But, that takes time. And then you get frustrated because I just spent $190 on 7 applicants that were horrible. The quality of applicant, that was the biggest issue with the quality of applicant was bad in the spring. Weeding them out to find a good one that would stick around. And we did talk about, we had the discussion about raising base pay and then, doing all that stuff. But we're still competitive pay-wise this year. Now, next year it may be a different story, but this year, we pay $15 an hour plus P for P bonuses, and we're competitive on the higher end for most companies. There's a couple that have raised it, but I mean, they don't pay bonuses. They don't pay profit sharing, which is a huge incentive. The guys should get it on the next quarter. So they're pretty pumped about that because we've hit, we're going to hit profit this month again for the second month in a row. So that like they're seeing those things and now they're seeing the profit when I show them. That keeps the guys that we have here on the retention side, which is big. So that's what I've really kind of focused on. I have 2 guys. They're my core guys. Let's retain them. I think is just as important as trying to find good help, from the outside. Let's focus on the retention. And that's kind of what I've done with them is they're kind of my trendsetters, I guess you would call them.
In terms of kind of like your target customers there in Mooresville, obviously there's, like you said, the more the affluent side, and there's just other part of town where it's not expensive housing and things like that. I think at first too we were kind of talking about the fact that there are customers who don't have full service, they don't have an immaculate lawn, and that it's no less of a service to them just to mow their lawn, mow, blow, and go. And at first that was a little bit more of a question mark for you. How has that evolved over the past few months? Have you got more of a certain type of customer as the brand has started to evolve? And what was that kind of transition in your mind like? Just like, hey, like if the money's green, I'm going to take it, and I don't need to necessarily have the best looking houses in the neighborhood.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I was a little more, I don't want to say picky because I took every estimate that would come in. But I personally, as just a personal thing, I wanted the greenest lawns, the best looking stride, like best yards in Mooresville and all of this. And then I slowly did learn, okay, there are different customers in this area. Um, and really just kind of, I'm okay with that. Like if it's grass, I'll mow it. I don't care. We have two different types of grass here. We have fescue and Bermuda. One's cool season, one's warm season. And people think you don't have to mow Bermuda. Well, yes, you do. It's hot now and it's really growing, but they still want to do biweekly. So I've had to adjust kind of my expectations. But on the flip side, I was just telling the guys today, our last, I think, three mowing customers have all been multi-million-dollar homes close to the lake. So we're starting to kind of grow in that area where we didn't have a single property on the other side on the what I call the more affluent side, but Mooresville really is kind of split by a freeway. Interstate 77 kind of splits us in half, and that's how we mow. We mow 2 days on one side, 2 days on the other side. And our customers have really leveled out to where it's pretty similar mowing hours on each side. And they're totally different, but we're starting to grow on the more affluent side just because of the brand recognition, the market saturation. They see us running up and down. There's one road that goes down by it's one of Trump's golf courses. It's one road down and one road back, and it's like 15 miles long. And it's at the point it goes out. And we're starting to get more and more properties on that road, and they're starting to see us all the time. And people at the gas station stopping the guys, asking about the ramp rack. And man, I see 10 trucks. We have three. And they think we have so many because they just see us everywhere now. And I think that's starting to kind of build that clientele base for us to where now we're at 170 reoccurring customers, and we weren't when we started, obviously. So it's really grown. It's just now we're starting to get some of the bigger customers, the more affluent customers that are seeing. One of the biggest comments I get from customers is, I love the communication that I receive, and I love how your guys all look the same and they're clean cut. We don't smoke. None of our guys smoke. They don't have cigarettes hanging out of their lip and shirt sleeves cut off and gym shorts on, which you see a lot of. So we kind of keep the appearance and professionalism pretty high. And, that has come across as pretty important on that more affluent side because they don't want some, Joe Blow looking homeless guy wandering around on their multi-million-dollar property. So it's kind of built up that side a little bit, but I have no issues with the normal. It's just a normal size, kind of normal neighborhoods. You just get a lot of the farm people that just, hey, just mow my grass and see you later, and I'll pay you the bill at the end of the month. So,
talk to me a little bit about just kind of your the past 6 months. I know someone like yourself, someone like myself, we're pretty impatient in terms of, we want stuff done now, and we want the business done, quickly. We want profitable tomorrow, and we're go-getters in that regard. Kind of talk to me a little bit about kind of the trusting of the processes over the past 6 months, and knowing that if I keep doing this, it's going to work out. This is going to become profitable. Because at first, seeing $20,000-$30,000 losses on a month can be a little bit nerve-wracking. Obviously, I've talked about, growth sucks cash, and we knew that, but kind of talk to me about that patience element in terms of wanting to grow, wanting to be profitable, but then not seeing it fast enough, not getting employees when you needed them, things like that.
Yeah. So I will tell you that it drove me crazy, because I want to be profitable. To me, that if you're profitable, that's success. And when you see a $35,000 loss for the month of March, or, it kind of, it breaks your spirit a little bit, especially because I do get profit sharing, so then I just think, man, that's money I'm losing. And but that also helps that ownership side of it, I got some skin in the game, essentially, so I have that drive because I get part of those profits. I get a portion of those, and the guys get a portion of that profit. It makes us kind of work a little bit harder and start thinking, hey, how do we be a little bit more efficient here? How do we get a little more efficient there? How do we fix this or that or whatever, and we've learned different ways to kind of do all this and different things. So it's kind of worked out, but I'm telling you, it ate me up in the beginning. It really bothered me, because I am kind of goal driven, where I am very impatient. Why are we not making profit now? Why is the money not here? Why is, the revenue not where it's at? Things like that. But then to see a small profit, but the last month was a smaller profit. This month should be a little bit bigger than last month, and it slowly, progressively will get bigger. And that, and the guys will get better at the mowing and different things. One guy I had, he did all construction on landscape, hardscaping, patios, things like that. Hadn't done the mowing at all. Well, now now he has, so he's much quicker and much more efficient and has learned shortcuts and things like that. So it's a time thing, but my wife will tell you I'm not very patient. So it was definitely a struggle, but now seeing that hard work is paying off, like, hey, we're profitable in 4 months. Like February we started, and really you call it maybe the 10th is when I got back from Seattle, from Bellingham there, and did the first estimates and had 11, I think it was 11 or 18. I can't remember what it was for the end of that month. And then we got a huge, like $10,000 project before February ended, landscape project, but then had that. And then it's, March, April, May, and boom, May, we made a profit. And June, we're going to make a profit. So it's just, and then on top of it, I'm relocating and doing this. So it's just, one of those things like, man, it should already be here. And it wasn't, but it came quicker than the 6 months, which I was like, okay, take a deep breath. It'll be 6 months. It ended up being 4, which, not gonna lie, kind of strokes the ego a little bit and says, okay, hey, we're doing it right. And the guys are working hard. And those long hours were worth it to kind of get in there and, hey, we made it in 4 months. We're ahead of the game. So we're doing something clearly that is right.
As you kind of have, now we've shifted to being profitable, and you start looking forward to, okay, like next year now, really wanting to own the place. Obviously, what's so special about you and a great general manager is that they do treat it like their own from day one. But as you now kind of evolve from, hey, I'm figuring stuff out, to now you're perfecting it, getting a team together. What's your mindset like now as you start shifting towards, UF program to actually own the thing? What's that mentality like? What kind of are your goals for the rest of 2021, 2022, to really hone it to exactly the way you want it?
Yeah. So like originally, I went, my wife's my best friend. So it was just at lengths. I was just talking to her, to that. And I think she probably got annoyed with it. How many times I had plans and this, and we're doing this and goals and things like this. And, really it just comes down to, this year was all about learning. I need to learn the market. I need to learn the clients. I need to learn the grass growth, periods. I knew in Columbus, Ohio, we were mowing the first week of April. Well, here it's the first week of March. Now, Bermuda, I now know, is later. It's the middle of April. It doesn't even start growing. I have Bermuda at the home that we're renting right now, so it's totally different. So it's just learning to say, what is fall cleanup going to look like? What is the summer going to look like? And I think that's what kind of gives this whole thing, me relocating, becoming a general manager, and not being the owner yet, is I get to learn all of this stuff where I don't have as big of a risk, as per se you do as an owner here in the new market. I can kind of learn and kind of teach myself as I go and pick these things up. Now, long term, like this year, my goal is to hit $300,000 in revenue. I think we're going to be close. I keep hearing that the fall is a very big time around here with all the leaves and aerations and things like that. So I'm hoping to hit, we've already surpassed, like, I think 150 for the season. If I can get to 300, that's my goal. And it's a pretty tough goal in the first year, but I think I can do it. So if we get to that, that is my goal. And then next year will be, let's kind of get it more efficient where we can, but there's no taking our foot off the pedal, because then I want to hit 500,000 next year. So just continue to keep pushing the pedal and pushing the envelope and growing to where then I'm either purchasing in that 2, 3, 4 year, depending upon, how everything goes with growth and all that good stuff. Because I still have a family. At this point, they love Mooresville. We love it down here. But realistically, they are the driver to a lot of the decisions in our household. Now, thankfully, they love everything there is about Mooresville, so I don't see it a problem. The goal still is to buy and purchase long term, but you still have to kind of look through and feel and make sure everything's good long term. But for this year, that would be the goal this year, is just keep feeling things out, accept the bumps and the bruises, own the bumps and the bruises if they're created by us, because we will have mistakes and things that do happen. I'm still learning command and the new programming with Service Autopilot, and my kind of role with that. But man, there's right now, I don't see anything stopping the growth continuously, at least a 50% growth every single year.
Well, I'd be very surprised if you were under 300 this year. We're not even halfway through your 150. Like. You're gonna kill it. You're gonna kill it. You're gonna do 400 easily.
Well, then we'll be all right. Then we'll be okay. But I just figure we'll double it. Right now we're at like 150, so we'll double it. The fall, we have people are familiar with this area, but we're right kind of at the foothills of the mountain, so there's tons of trees. And these people like to pay for services. So that's where we come in. We'll clean it up.
Last question for you, Chuck.
Yep.
Kind of piggybacking on some stuff we already talked about, but kind of having that mentality that even though you aren't the owner, you treat it like your own. I've been the same way even when I was a trainer at Anytime Fitness. I always was thinking, like, when I came in, like, what would I do if I was the owner? And then little did I know, down the road I would actually buy that company. But what would you say to someone that is an employee, whether in the field, an office manager, an estimator, just getting started mowing lawns? Like, they're not an owner. That 1 out of 100 of the people listening to my podcast are in that role, usually just getting started. But maybe they've been around. They're an office person. They are a general manager. What would you say to them in terms of their mindset as an employee, but thinking about ownership down the road? What should that be? Whether it be learning, whether it be exploring and kind of having that latitude of lower risk, what would you say to them to learn now before they own their own business?
So first, learn the business side. Like, you have to learn the marketing. You have to learn, like I was just telling my wife today, we did the Nextdoor local deals in the spring, and every person I asked, it was YouTube or Google. So I stopped doing the Nextdoor for a little bit. Recently, I started not knocking on doors, but hanging door hangers. I'd have an hour. I did this. Okay, I don't want to just drive around. Let me go just hit the street with some door hangers when I did an estimate. Like, little stuff like that. We're going to go back to Nextdoor. So you have to know, okay, it didn't work in the beginning, but marketing, it's slowed down. So let's go ahead and start it back up. Let's try the Nextdoor thing. Let's do different things. So I never would have thought about that before, but I started watching different people on YouTube, watching you and Jonathan at Turf Pro. I know we talked about, he's like my other YouTube guy that I like to watch because it's business oriented. Anybody can mow grass. You have to and you have to get out of that field worker's mindset of, I'm going to come in here, collect this paycheck, and mow grass. No, take a little bit of ownership on your job. Go above and beyond. Think about it from the client's perspective. And I didn't think about that when I worked for the state of Ohio, because I was an officer and I was.
You haven't become the governor.
So it wasn't like anything. I didn't care. It was.
Yeah.
It wasn't that. It was a paycheck. Now it's take a little pride in yourself. As a field worker, as an employee, this is me speaking as an employee. You have to take pride in yourself. Look presentable. Don't come in looking like a soup sandwich and your shirt untucked and all goofy looking. Like, you take a little bit of pride in yourself and your bosses. And I've always been promoted, but I've always taken pride the way I look, to do my job, come in, be on time every time. Like, that's the biggest, one of my pet peeves with my guys is your attitude and your attendance. The rest of it we can teach, but I can't teach you how to be on time. I can't teach you to be a good person. Like, that's the thing. And if to an employee, if you are late all the time, fix that. That will hold weight with your boss more than anything in the world. If you're on time and you have a good attitude. If you're slow, that's okay. We can speed it up. My part-time guy just got out of the Army, very slow, but he was on time every time, always dressed right. And now he's one of my best employees. He's very meticulous. His quality normally is always good. So I can work and teach, but I can't teach you to be on time, and I can't teach you to be good. So that to me is, if you can be on time, have a good attitude, start doing that, and learn the business side. Because if you start showing that initiative of, hey, I want to learn the financials, I want to learn how to market, I want to learn how to grow, I want to learn how to advertise, those types of things, And then on the flip side, as a field worker, think of it, what do I need to do to make this client happy? Does it take 2 extra minutes to be a little careful around the gutter? Well, yes, because I'm going to charge you however much money out of your P for P if you blast through that gutter and you rip it off the side of their house, which has happened. So slow down and save 30 seconds to not cost yourself an hour the next day to go fix it or whatever it is. So think of it from a client's perspective on the work side of it. Okay, what would the client want to see, when they walk out their back door, with their kids or whatever? They don't want to see grass all sloppy looking. So just take a little bit of that ownership side of it and pride in your work, your pride in your appearance. And I think that'll speak volumes to your manager, whether it's, a shift manager, an owner, or, general manager or whatever.
Awesome. Cool. Well, before I let you go, I just wanted to say thank you. Obviously, it's very recognizable in the chat, obviously, and that is that you are an incredible, you're a general manager, an employee, but I just want to say thank you. You've done an amazing job, and really being the, part of that first group of out of state general managers for me is somewhat nerve wracking in terms of, just saying, hey, go for it. And then I show up one time and the first time we met was actually at training.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Like on the flip side, can we have a little Q&A with Mike?
Yeah, go for it.
So because I only knew of you from YouTube, and then we had our couple Zoom calls or whatever. So you're hiring a manager from across the country. Like you live in Seattle, Bellingham, but I always say Seattle because it's the closest major city. And we live all the way on the other coast, pretty much. How do you hire somebody that you expect to run a multi-million-dollar business? Here's the bank account, here's the keys to the car, do what you need to do with essentially one phone call. How does that work? What's your mindset?
Two things. First of all, it makes it easier when the money that you are putting into the business you could lose, right? It wasn't like my last dollar was going towards someone I didn't know, right? So that definitely is a huge benefit. I can't say that you can, if I had $100,000 and that was my last dollar, I could just be like, hey, go for it, right? I would probably be much more involved at that point. So that's the first caveat. The second thing is trust for me is huge. I know trust to verify, people say, but for me, it's I want to trust someone to the point where they do feel like they own it. They can, most people from a customer standpoint and the employees in Mooresville, I would say, think you're the owner and wouldn't think anything otherwise. And so if I want you to have that mentality, I have to treat you that way. And that is if you bring, hey, should we buy something? The first thing I'm gonna do is well, what do you think? Because that's the only thing I really care about. And so I'm a big into trust. We had one general manager that started, and then it wasn't I fired him, but he quit just because he had other family obligations. But it was only a couple weeks into things. And so that one kind of hurt because it was man, we just got started. I got everything registered. It was, for me, is the time involved, right? In getting someone trained and all the rest of it. But I think I just default more towards trust, and then I kind of let someone prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And if they prove me wrong, I'm gonna let them go. But someone like yourself that was so apparently awesome on the Zoom calls and had the experience from the business side in terms of hiring and all the rest of it, that's the biggest challenge especially when you're going to grow quickly, right? When you're going to grow really quickly, if the person cannot find people, hire them, and then those employees, I got to trust that you're going to treat them correctly. That was the thing I'm looking for. And then even during training, even though we had, I already hired you, during training, you're in an interview with me, right? And that is how are they receiving this learning? How are they asking good questions? Are they engaged? And you obviously were incredible at all those things. And so I knew that when you went back to Mooresville, you're going to crush it.
Yeah. Awesome.
And so there.
Good. So last question. So I see a lot when I do watch these videos.
there's your questions. Okay.
This is it. Because I do see a lot of times on here comments on our, the franchisee Facebook page, all those things. What do you, because eventually I do want to be an owner, and I'm kind of grooming one guy to kind of step into estimator at some point. When I do buy, I hope that he stays with me, but if he doesn't, he wants to own, then I'm good with that as well. But what are you looking for in leadership positions? Because it might have been Kevin Fairburn one night asked, what are you looking for in leadership to kind of get along? Because most of the people that do watch this are owners themselves already, aren't a part of Augusta. So what are you kind of looking for, because you did have to start it from so far away? Kind of what are you looking for in the leadership role, and kind of backgrounds, or however you kind of want to explain it?
Yeah, so you mean in terms of like finding a general manager or just leadership in general?
Yeah, leadership for like managers, because a lot of the goal is ultimately for everybody not to have to work every day in the field.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think someone that is self-improving is huge for me, right? Whether it be locally and pulling people out of the field into more management positions or estimators, someone that wants to improve, is not satisfied with where they're at currently. I think a little bit of that is really healthy. And so, when I'm looking for a general manager, the biggest thing for me is if they're going to treat their people right. That's probably the biggest thing for me. And same thing with locally. If there's a manager or an estimator position, if they're not going to treat and think about other people first, like I'm just checked out. And I think part of it is, I live my life for other people. Like everything I do is for other people. I'm not very selfish at all. And so I expect that of the people that are going to be close to me, especially if they're going to be dealing with people that are quote unquote my employees, right? And so the way that I think about my team and the people that I care about, I'm not going to have someone else intermediary between me treat them wrong. And I take it pretty personally. And so for me, like if a general manager can treat other people really well and think about other people first, and even I still remember in our calls, in our Zoom calls that we had before I hired you, like I'm looking for certain things, and that is, how often does this person talk about other people instead of themselves, and talking about other people and their needs instead of their own. And I feel like long term, that leader is going to be fine financially. They're going to take care of their people. People are going to want to work for them. They are going to have committed employees that want to see them succeed and want to grow underneath their leadership. And I saw that in you. I see that in the people that I try to promote, because they'll do a good job. They'll eventually win. I truly believe if you think about other people first, and that's genuinely your thought process, you will win in life, both financially, emotionally, all those different elements. And so I saw that in you right from when we did the Zoom calls. And someone who's decisive is also a big deal. And I know, a lot of people would question the way that I did hire my general managers. Relatively quickly, within a couple of days, we had a job offer to you and we were ready to roll. Part of it is, how did you react to that, right? Because if you don't take it well, and you're like, oh, I need to think about it for 3 months, or like, I need to go up there and visit. Can I come say hi for a week and then maybe I'll think about it? Like a lot of that, I understand that thought process, but it's not going to work well in our organization, right? Where there's a lot of change, a lot of growth. Someone like that can't handle that is not going to be able to handle 3 or 4 employees brand new in the first month. Hiring, getting a new truck and juggling the 3 employees you just hired. Like they're not going to do well in that position. And so speed for something in business is important. And so speed for me is almost a bit of a test, is like, how do they react to that kind of decision-making process? And for some people, it was like, oh, no, like, you're not talking about like this year, you're talking about like next year. Like, no, we're talking like in a couple of weeks, you'd be here and training and we'd be rolling. And so, someone like yourself that's hungry, wants to learn, wants to grow, thinks about other people, and is not afraid to make decisions quickly is a big part of that sort of equation.
Awesome.
No. Well, thanks, Chuck. I really appreciate you coming on. And again, just congratulations on all your hard work over there. I really look forward to one day when I can say you're an owner and not a general manager. But I really do appreciate all the hard work. And I know it goes without saying, but your success there is absolutely attributed to your hard work and what you've done in there in Mooresville. So congratulations.
All right. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. Take care.
Yep. Thanks. Bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on. Again, next week, we're going to have Lee from the local office, who's come right from the field to an estimator and office manager. He'll be on the next week here of Roundup. But thank you so much for watching. Sorry for that little bit of a blip there in the internet halfway through. And sorry about a couple of rogue commenters on this chat. I try to block a few of them. So thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow, actually. Actually, there's a really cool video coming out in a few minutes that Danny has been working on today. So make sure you check that out. It's about overgrown lawns. And if you actually make money mowing overgrown lawns. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.